What's up, Undisputed listeners? It's your boy, Shay Sharp. I wanted to tell you about my new podcast, Club Shay Shay, where we always do something before two something. Each week, I sit down with a guest for a drink and conversation, and as host and proprietor of Club Shay Shay, I've welcomed in esteemed guests such as Snoop Dogg, Floyd Money Mayweather, LeVar Ball, Isaiah Thomas, just to mention a few. Whether I'm talking to an athlete, a musician, an actor, or a lifelong friend, Club Shay Shay is a place where people share inspiring and motivational stories about their journeys to prominence. The new episode drops every Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Club Shay Shay now and make sure you never miss a new episode. Now back to Undisputed.
Welcome to the Undisputed Podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon. Let's get to it.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. It is great to see your faces. How are we doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm refreshed. I'm revived. I got new material. Skip Bayless, you in trouble, bro. You in trouble.
You know, it's funny. I was just thinking how I am so rested right now. I'm reinvigorated. I'm rejuvenated. I wouldn't want to have to deal with me today. I think you're the one who's in trouble.
Ooh,
I think you were reinvigorated like old Goat James.
Oh, the old
like
man?
Old Goat James. You see him last night, Skip?
The old goat.
Don't do that. Don't do that, Skip. Don't.
Goat James. He got a little rest as well. We actually do have to talk about what we saw last night. Let's talk about that game. The Lakers led by as many as 35 points on their way to a 117-91 victory over the Warriors last night. LeBron had 19 points, sat the whole fourth quarter. LA is now 3-4 since Anthony Davis went out with a calf injury 2 weeks ago. And in that stretch, LeBron has averaged 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. So Shannon, has LeBron helped or hurt his MVP case in AD's absence here?
Well, I think for me, Jenny, I think he's leveled it off but that's not telling the whole story in its totality. Yeah, they've played 7 games without Anthony Davis, but they've also played 4 games minus Dennis Schroeder. So tell me the superstar, if you take away the next 2 best players, what their record's going to be. So if I take Joel Embiid and I take Ben Simmons and I take Tobias Harris, what do you think their record's going to be over 7 games? If I take Paul George and Serge Ibaka from Kawhi, what do you think his record's going to be over 7 games? If I take Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. away from Yoke, what do you think his record's going to be? So in order for us to tell the story, we must tell the story in its totality. Yes, they played 7 games without Anthony Davis, but they've also played 4 games without Dennis Schroeder. And what Schroeder does, Skip, Schroeder is that sibling. He's the middle sibling. He's old enough to tie his own shoe, but he can also help the younger siblings tie their shoe. Because when you look at it, Skip, what he can do, he can create his own shot, but he can also create opportunities for someone else. LeBron was taking a heavy burden, a heavy load, Skip. Not only did he have to get himself going, he had to find ways to try to get other guys going. And you playing the amount of minutes that he's playing, these overtime games, Skip, where you would normally play maybe 35, 40 minutes, you start going overtime and double overtime. Now all of a sudden, when you're averaging 34, 35 minutes, that's going to creep up to 37, 38, maybe even 39 minutes. So I don't think he's done anything to hurt his case because none of the other MVPs have done anything to help their cases. Joel Embiid lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers. That just happened Saturday. What place are the Cavaliers in? We've seen what happened when James Harden plays without KD and Kyrie. So, no, LeBron James has not hurt his case for MVP. As a matter of fact, I still have him in first place because how do you come back? You lost to the Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers minus GOAT James. So, if anything, LeBron James has maybe gained a vote here or there, but he's definitely not done anything to harm his MVP candidacy.
First quick point of order before I launch into what I have to say about GOAT James. Somebody I'm looking down the barrel at right now bet me that over the 9 games that LeBron was about to play without Anthony Davis, and I'll give you without Dennis Schroeder. I'll get to that in just a minute. But Somebody bet me that the best player on the planet, quote unquote, would go 6-3 in those 9 games. And he started out 1-4. He lost 3 straight home games. And I think you've already lost the bet because I think the best he can now do is 5-4. Correct?
Hold on, Skip. You really going to take that bet after Schroeder has to miss 4 games because of health protocol? For real, Skip, that's how you going to do it?
Them's the breaks. How many times have I gotten burned by some injury, some weird thing? But wait a second. I thought you told me that your man is still the best player on the planet, that he was running away with the MVP race. Now he's fallen back to where he just has a slight lead in the MVP race by default.
Slight edge. Edge.
So all of a sudden, you're trying to tell me that Dennis Schroeder is like Kyrie meets Patrick Beverly? Is that what we're talking about? Because I hear LeBron say he's one of the best on-ball defenders in the league. Couldn't fool me.
Yes.
I give you, he's pretty good, but he's made no all-defense teams so far in his career.
No.
Patrick Beverly's made 3 all-defensive teams. So I'd say I'll take Patrick Beverly over Dennis Schroeder. And the point is he Kyrie Irving because he's averaging 15 and 4 assists and 4 rebounds? Really? And you're going to make the case that GOAT James can't be GOAT without Dennis Schroeder?
Skip, the thing is what he does is that he's their best on-ball defender, so he can pick up 94 feet. If you notice, the things that were killing them is what? Dribble penetration, kick to wide open threes. We saw that Kyrie, James Harden, breaking the defense down, kicking the ball to Shannon, kicking the ball to Joe Harris, kicking the ball to TLC, wide open shots. We saw them get blown out in Utah. What happened? They couldn't stay in front of Mike Conley. They couldn't stay in front of Donovan Mitchell. He's kicking. They're kicking the ball to wide open guys. Schroeder can slide. Schroeder can move his feet. And so not only can he play defense as an on-ball defender, he also can get his own shot. He also can create opportunities for someone else. So he's a very valuable piece. Is he Kyrie? No, he's not Kyrie. But Skip, for them, and you talk about Pat Bev, the Lakers are not on the market for a point guard. It seems to me every point guard that might become available, the Clippers want him. They're in the running for Kyle Lowry. They're in the running for this one. If Pat Beverly is what you tell me he is continuously, and article after article say he's the 3rd most important player, why the hell is the Clippers always looking for a point guard? They got one.
Obviously, offensively, he's not a great point guard. Defensively, he is a little pit bull. You know it, and I know it. I'll take Pat Bev even at an advanced age over Dennis Schroeder defensively any day or any night.
But as a total player, would you take Patrick Beverly as a total player over Dennis Schroeder? Because you have to play both sides. That's the thing I love about basketball. You just can't snowbird on one end and light somebody up on the other end. At some point in time, you're going to have to buckle down on both ends. So as a player, would you take Dennis Schroeder or Patrick Beverly as we sit here today?
Okay, I'll give you that. I would give a slight edge to a younger Dennis Schroeder. I like his electricity. I like his quickness.
Yes.
He's not a pure point guard, obviously. He's really a 2-guard. LeBron is the point guard. So I will give you that you miss him a little, but don't give me LeBron's the best player on the planet and then say, oh, my God, he can't do it without Dennis Schroeder and AD. What about KCP? What about THT? What about the other Morris, Markieff? We can just go to, what about Kyle Kuzma? He's becoming a semi-star at least, right? You're loaded. You got a deep basketball team, and you lose 3 games in a row at home because LeBron stinks it up, and you're telling me he's still the MVP?
Yeah, but let me ask you a question, Skip. You didn't answer my question. If I take Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris away from Ben Simmons from Joel Embiid for 7 games, are they going 6-1, 5-2?
I didn't say Joel Embiid's the best player on the planet. You said LeBron is.
Well, no. It doesn't matter. We talk about MVP candidacy, correct? Right now, that's what we're saying. So I'm taking, if you take the 3 or 4 MVP candidates and you take away the 2nd and 3rd best options on those teams, what do you think their record's going to be if they play comparable competition?
The truth is, Joel Embiid has been so dominating, the record would be the same. Again, the Sixers aren't as deep as the Lakers are. Joel Embiid makes his free throws. LeBron James has plummeted to 69.4% from the free throw line. That is pathetic. You're disqualified from the MVP race if you can't even make 70% of your free throws. What do you bet me on his free throws? He's going to make, 80% this year, right? And Shannon, he just went through maybe the coldest three-point stretch of his career. He slightly came out of it last night, making 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5. Wow. I'm impressed.
You saw that the one he from Bakersfield hit one from Bakersfield.
Oh, okay. Well, I saw him miss point blanks. Listen to this 9-game stretch. This is 9 games through the middle of February. He starts off with a 2 for 10. Then he goes 3 of 9, 1 of 4, 0 for 5, 1 of 4, 1 for 6, 1 of 8, and ends it with 2 of 10, and then 1 for 5 at Utah the other night. That is horrendously bad. He's shooting high-volume three-point shots, and he's crippling his team because I just gave you a 20% streak. You can't win games that way, and that's why. Let's look at the 2 games that they lost that were just horrendous. How about the Miami game? I'm going a week ago, Saturday night at home. And it comes down to LeBron, and he was 1 for 8 from 3. And what happened on the final possession? Usually the best player on the planet would say, I got this. And what did LeBron say? Here we go. They force a turnover. Here comes Caruso. Gives it to LeBron. Shoot it, LeBron. Shoot it.
They double it.
He gives it to Alex Caruso to take the game-winning shot. Then he criticizes Caruso for not stepping back and taking the 3 to win instead of just catching and shooting the 2 to tie. What?
No. Not that situation. Skip, not in that situation, because we saw a very similar situation, Skip. I think it was Denver and Washington, where Jamal Murray has the ball, and instead of a guy going to the basket because it's wide open, everybody goes to the three-point line and they miss it. In this situation, he was not going to be able to get to the basket in the amount of time that he had. So why take a 2 to tie when you could just back up 1 foot and take a 3 for to possibly win? I agree with LeBron.
If you're the best player on the planet, you take 1 dribble to your left, 1 dribble forward, and then step back and shoot the 3 to win the game. If you're that guy, but he's not that guy, and he was 1 for 8 at that point, like he did, and he says, I want no part of this.
Oh, like he did against Washington? That's the one like he did that when he shot that 3.
Thank you.
So don't criticize. You better not have a problem with the shot that he took against Washington. That was his low point.
Okay, then. That game alone should have knocked him out of the MVP race because Washington came into that game 10-17 and beat the Lakers at home because what happened at the end of regulation? Well, Russell Westbrook said, I got LeBron after Hashimura had been taking him all night and done a pretty credible job on LeBron James. And Russ says, no, I got him. And Scotty Brooks says, okay, Russ, whatever you say, you're coach. And then what happened? Can we see the end of this game? LeBron goes to his left.
You got an and one.
And he actually kind of lucked in a shot. It barely greased in. And it's an and one. And he goes to the line. And what do I always tell you, Shannon Sharp? That was a pretty lucky bounce he got. Here is LeBron James, the worst superstar free throw shooter late game that you will ever see. He has no clutch gene from the free throw line. It's like almost an air ball. He barely nicks the front of the rim on what would have been the game-winning free throw. And you're saying he's still the MVP? Come on, Shannon, that's pathetic.
Yeah, if you look at him, Skip, he shot that ball, and a lot of it lately he's been shooting the ball with all arms. He doesn't have enough knee bend and putting his legs into it, so the ball, because a lot of his shots have hit the front of the rim. But all I'm saying, Skip, I don't believe LeBron James has done anything to harm his MVP candidacy. For the simple fact is he was playing without his second and third best players, and the other guys that's also in the running has done nothing. And while you talk about the Washington Wizards, they also beat the Boston Celtics. They've also beaten the Brooklyn Nets. They went on the road, and they also beat, if I'm not mistaken, they beat Portland, they beat Denver. So what you keep saying, the lonely Washington Wizards.
10-17.
But, they got an NBA, they're 10-17, but Bradley Beal's leading the league in scoring. Russell Westbrook has as many triple-doubles as anybody. He's a superstar. So on a given night, if you don't play your best basketball, they can light you up. And that's what happened. Ask the Brooklyn Nets what Russ and Bradley Beal are capable of doing. Even when they had their big three, Russ beat them with their big three. So don't pretend like Washington are just slouches. Yeah, they got up to a horrendous start. And they lost last night, a game they easily could have won. I think Bradley Beal kind of lost track of the time because he was looking to pass the ball. In the last second, he shot it. It almost went in. But, Skip, for me, when I look at it, LeBron is averaging 25, 8, and 8. Is it the record that I thought they would have? Absolutely not. But I did not envision Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder is that smart player. Skip, you know, everybody has that guy.
Yeah.
Like you said about Pat Bev, he's not extremely talented, but he provides something that nobody else can.
Okay, back to the Washington game. LeBron was 2 of 10 from 3 in that game. LeBron had 8 turnovers that should have been 9 because he should have had a charging foul at the end of the game. When he knocked down Bertans, he just ran over him and they didn't call it. That would have been the 9th turnover.
Right.
The point is, that game in overtime comes down to what? Could we see what it comes down to? No clutch gene. It just comes down to make it, LeBron. Just make it. If you're that guy, you're Mr. Logo 3, you have to pull up. You pulled up before you needed to because I want to make this higher degree of difficulty. Just go ahead and shoot your shot. Make one of them. Just make one.
Oh, he shot his shot.
Yeah, okay.
He shot his shot.
So he shot his shot and he LeBricked it. Didn't even come close. Didn't lip out, right?
Hold on. So let me ask you a question. Every time every historically great player has had an opportunity to win the game on a last-second shot, they've done that. I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. So Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Kobe Bryant, all the historically great shooters that have taken the shot, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. So every time they've shot the ball on it with a chance to win the game or tie the game, they've done that.
Okay, but what was our big premise going into this? No AD MVP. This is your chance to rise, shine, and run away from the field. You could all but close the deal. And in 7 games without Anthony Davis so far, LeBron is shooting 26% from 3 and 62% from the free throw line. Pathetic. So you can't tell me that he's still the MVP. Unless you make the total default case, he has obviously not enhanced his own case as MVP. You can't make that case.
Let me ask you a question. In the games that they played earlier this year without Anthony Davis, and they had LeBron and Dennis Schroeder, how many games did they lose?
Okay, but what was our premise? You told me 6 and 3. I thought LeBron would take it up a notch and just take these games over.
So let me ask you a question. So you knew that Dennis Schroeder was going to be in health and safety protocols, and he was going to miss 4 games. So that's why you said LeBron was not going to be. So you knew that?
These are home games against teams you should beat at home.
Skip,
this is Brooklyn without Kevin Durant. You can't beat Brooklyn without Kevin Durant. Really?
Skip, talk about. They got Kyrie and James Harden, 2 superstars. What did James Harden do? Let me ask you a question. What did James Harden do yesterday? Saturday night without Kyrie and Kevin Durant? What did he do? You got to be able to beat the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks are in what? 14th place, 12th place, 14th place. You got to be able to beat the Dallas Mavericks.
Okay,
James Harden.
I'm not making a case that Harden's the MVP. I didn't bring him up. I'm just saying Kevin Durant is the best player on the planet. When we have seen him this year, he has been the best. Nobody plays as dominantly as Kevin Durant. But he's been
Let me ask you a
wrong.
question.
He's had injuries. He's had protocol.
When Kevin Durant had to play with Kyrie, what's his record?
Okay, all I know is that Brooklyn beat your team at your place with no Kevin Durant. That's shameful.
Skip, they had Kyrie. Skip, stop now. So now you just stop. Now you're trolling me. Because they still had James Harden and Kyrie. When only 2 of the big 3 plays, they're 1 and 2. When only one of the big 3 plays, they're 1 and 2. So what's going on, Skip?
Kevin Durant,
help me out.
Kevin Durant has owned LeBron James. What do you think would happen if Kevin had played in that game? You'd have gotten blown out.
Skip, stop that. Kevin Durant has owned LeBron James once he went to Golden State and linked up with Steph, Clay, and Draymond. Check the tape. Check the tape when he was in OKC and he had Russ. And check it when LeBron only had Kyrie. Don't do that, Skip Bayless. Everybody knows that Kevin Durant did not own those. You remember what happened in the NBA Finals. You remember what happened when there was just them two, basically them and Russ and Kyrie. You knew what happened. Don't do that. He owned it. He owned it once he got to Golden State.
Kevin Durant was handicapped by Russell Westbrook in Oklahoma City. He said, I can't win with him as the primary ball handler and decision maker. I got to get out of this. And he goes to Golden State, and he took over. And he took over back-to-back game threes in LeBron's house. Shot it right in LeBron's face in the first game three and won back-to-back finals MVPs at LeBron's expense. So what do you think would have happened if he had played when they came to Staples back a week and a half ago? You would have gotten blown out.
I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing with you the validity of Kevin Durant's greatness. He's a transcendent player. He's historically great. I'm not arguing that. All I'm saying is, if you got three Skip, that's why teams are trying to get as many superstars as they can. It's because if one goes down, you still have two. And if you got four, if two go down, you still have two. Or if one goes down, you have three. The Brooklyn Nets have something that very few teams have ever had. They can lose a superstar and still have two superstars that can go get you 30, 40, or 50 on a given night.
Are you saying
the Lakers don't have that luxury?
Yeah, Dennis Schroeder's a superstar? Is that the contention?
No, Skip. Sometimes it's the role players, because I believe come playoff time, your superstars will do normally. 90% of the time, your superstars will do what they do. It's the role, it's the supporting actors, not the leads that would generally win you the game. And that's what happened. Dennis Schroeder, is he a leading actor? No. But in his supporting roles, he's great at his supporting role. He's done, look, two playoff teams, and they held both of them under 100 points. Now, if you want to make a stronger, compelling argument for MVP, give that to Dame Lillard playing without CJ and Nurk.
No, they're not good enough. They're on a loop where they lost 4 in a row. No.
They lost like 4 in a row.
Okay, so let's go to turnovers. LeBron James is second in the league. He's been first in the league for a while in turnovers. He's now second to Trae Young. Can you defend that? That's your MVP. He's second in turnovers. Really?
Skip, he handles the ball. Washington was very poor. They had 20 turnovers. LeBron turned it over 8 times. You can't have that. He started the game off the other night with 2 turnovers back to back. You can't have that. He understands that. And the thing that I would like LeBron is that when you're playing without AD or you play without Schroeder, you have the things that you would normally try when they're in the game, you can't try because you don't have the horses to help you overcome that. But he is what he is. I'm willing to take that. I'm willing to take LeBron turning the ball over 4 or 5 times a game because I know normally great things are going to come when he has the ball in his hand.
Okay.
LeBron James has not lost any ground.
Let's go to player efficiency rating, PER. It's the stat, the most telling stat in all of basketball. LeBron James in PER now ranks 20th. 20th. Jokic is first. Embiid is second, Giannis is third, Kawhi's fourth, Zion is fifth, and then it just goes on and on. I can just give you name after name after name. All the way down to Vucevic is 19th. Vucevic 19th, LeBron James 20th. And he's the MVP? That's screaming no.
Of the guys that you mentioned, which team has a better record than the Lakers? Now, you tell me player efficiency rating. Shouldn't that go to winning? Shouldn't that be a direct reflection of winning? So of all the guys, from Zion to Jokic to Embiid to Giannis, which one of those teams has a better record than the Los Angeles Lakers?
They're a really good team because they're deep. They got a lot of firepower coming off the bench. Their second group can be as good as their first group. So I don't know. They're deep enough. They shouldn't be losing. You know, they shouldn't start off without AD 1-4.
Skip, you know Schroeder makes a difference. There's a reason why they traded and went out and got Schroeder. There's a reason why they just didn't get him for 1 year. He provides something that they don't have, that they have. See, He's like, he can run the point like Rondo, although he's not the true point guard that Rondo is. He's a better offensive weapon, and he's a better on-ball defender than Rondo. Skip, like I said, he's an unsung player, but in his role, he's as good as it comes because he understands what his role is. Picking up 94 feet, he does that. He can take you off the dribble. Is he a great shot maker? No, but he can get to the basket. He's an adequate free throw shooter, and he can create for other people.
Yeah, and yet last night on the ESPN telecast, Richard Jefferson, who played with LeBron James, close friend of LeBron James, often has LeBron on his podcast, said that LeBron has slowed down. And I'm like, he has? I don't think LeBron thinks LeBron has slowed down. So I was shocked that Richard would go public with that. And it made me sit back and think, well, if he slowed down, I'm not sure he can be the MVP.
No mercy.
Hey, Undisputed listeners, I wanted to tell you about our brand new Fox Sports app and website, foxsports.com. Reimagined for the modern sports fan. Go ahead, download the new app right now. You don't even have to pause this episode. Every day on the new app and website, you'll see the top stories in sports, plus a rich world of written content, videos, social media, and analytics to give you a 360-degree view of the most important stories of the day. Streaming live TV has never been so easy or elegant. Every Fox Sports game, including all pregame and postgame shows, are just one click away. For the extra invested fan, we also go deep with real-time wagering lines, trending prop bets, win probability, and key player projections. Download the new Fox Sports app or visit www.foxsports.com.
Hey, Undisputed listeners, it's Charlotte Wilder here to tell you about my new podcast with Mark Titus called the People Sports Podcast. It comes out every Thursday, and Mark and I take one of the big stories of the week, and then we go off on tangents you never saw coming. This might mean that we start talking about the Dodgers winning the World Series and end up wondering if Knicks fans deserve happiness. Or begin with LeBron's greatness and end up drafting our ultimate beer league softball team made up of old athletes. Whatever it is, the only rule of the show is that it has to be fun and funny, because these days we can all use as many laughs as we can get. So check it out wherever you get your podcasts and come down weird sports rabbit holes with us. We can't wait to have you.
Well, the Cowboys were one of the 4 teams that Russell Wilson has said he would waive his no-trade clause for. But based on the cost of what it would take to get Wilson from Seattle and previous trade tensions between the two teams, one Cowboy source called the idea laughable. Although Michael Irvin may have added some fuel to the fire recently by saying, quote, Russell Wilson wants Dak's chair. So, Shannon, could you see a Russell for Dak trade actually happening here?
No, this is just pie in the sky. This is everybody. This is wishful thinking. Russ has made it. Russ's agent, I think, Skip, talked to Adam Schefter and says he hasn't requested a trade, but he listed 4 teams that Russ would be willing to waive his no-trade clause in order to have an opportunity to play for those teams. Skip, the thing is that the Cowboys have no leverage. See, it would be different if Dak was under contract, then they could do this. It's the same situation with Deshaun. But because the difference is that Dak is a free agent. So you would have to put the tag on him, and then he would have to sign the tag. He would have to be accepting of going where you wanted to send him. And at some point in time, he and his agent would have to sit down, work out a deal with the Seattle Seahawks that's going to pay him in excess of $40 million a year. And if that's not going to be the case, Dak is not signing. I do not believe, Skip, Dak will be in a hurry to sign that franchise tag this year as he was last year. Because what are the Cowboys' options? See, the market will tell you what the price of the player should be. If the Cowboys don't believe Dak Prescott is worth $40 million, let him test the market. Come back to you with an offer and says, this is what Team X is willing to pay me. Do you want to match it? If not, let him go. You keep trying to say Dak isn't worth this. No, just say you don't want to pay back that number. So, Skip, it's not going to happen. It sounds good. I know you'd be all excited. I believe Russell Wilson is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. But the fact of the matter is is that with all this flirting, all this doing is that Dak keeps saying, see, y'all don't believe in me. Jerry, I heard what you said. I heard what Stephen Jones said. But at the end of the day, you're entertaining this. Don't think I don't know. Because, Skip, remember, D. Smith, who's the head of the Players Association, was in a conference call. What did he tell his group? Tell the agents to do what, Skip? Collude, because that's what the owners are going to do to try to make sure you keep the market down. So trust me, these agents are getting on the phone and they're talking. They're going to drive the prices up as high as they possibly can. But I give this, you never say never, but I give this a less than 0.0001% chance.
Yeah, you never say never, so you have to give it a 0.00001% chance, right?
Yeah, that's what I gave you. That's what I gave you. That's what I gave you. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Eight zeros and then one at the end.
Okay, one. Okay, got it. First of all, before I unleash on this one, allow me to say, because we were off last week, I thought it was really bad form for Russell and his agent to put 4 teams out there, 2 of which have an incumbent quarterback. It was out of bounds.
Yeah.
It looked bad for Russ's sake. I realize he's unhappy there, but don't force your unhappiness on the Cowboys and the Raiders, because that's what you did. Because you said, well, I'll go there. Well, Dak is the quarterback right now. I know he's unsigned at the moment because he's untagged.
Right.
And yet Derek Carr had a pretty good year last year. And it's just bad form. Bad form on the part of Russell Wilson, for whom I have respect, to suddenly put his name out there in harm's way. Yeah, I'd go there in a heartbeat. Oh, okay, we got it. Well, what about Derek?
Skip, not to cut you off, Skip. Tell Adam that off the record. Don't let Adam be able to go on the record with that. If you want to say something like that, well, Skip, here's the thing. I got 4 teams that Dak would be willing to waive. Russ would be willing to waive that no trade because Russell has a no trade clause. Off the record, these are the teams. But to go on record, to allow Adam to go on record and say this publicly, that's tacky. That's really tacky.
Tacky. Out of bounds. Now, back to the premise. Yeah, to your point, if you told me pie in the sky could happen, if you told me that this afternoon the Seahawks will say, yeah, we will trade straight up for Dak Prescott after you tag him, we'll take him with the tag, and then we'll redo and we'll untag him and give him whatever he wants. We'll give him $45 million a year for the next 4 years to be the Seattle Seahawks quarterback. And also, Dallas, we need your first-round pick this year. But that's all. Just your first-rounder this year, which is, 10th overall. Would I do that? Oh, thank you, God. Yes, I would. Because you would be trading problem for problem. They're starting to have a problem with Russell Wilson. He's taken shots at Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's 2 sons have been very involved in the hierarchy of the Seahawks. One of them is now left for another job, but still, Russell's been upset, according to reports, about the son's involvement. So he's got all kinds of issues.
Nepotism.
What's that? Yeah, nepotism, for sure. And yet, the Dak problem runs even deeper to me as a lifelong Cowboy fan, because my gut feeling is, right here, right now, that they will never come to terms. I am sick and tired of you and others saying, pay the man, because you're basically saying, overpay the man. It's no disrespect to Dak that Jerry made a very reasonable, fair offer to him a year ago that he turned down. Even Shannon Sharp, the Hall of Famer, said, yeah, whatever that is, that 35, 36 a year-ish kind of offer. It's fine. It's a reasonable offer. It's nothing to be offended by.
It was a fair offer.
Yet, Dak and his agent want beyond Deshaun money. They want close to, I believe, Patrick Mahomes money. So is it disrespectful to Dak for Jerry to be saying, I don't think you're quite Patrick Mahomes? No. And what is Jerry burdened by right now? Well, here I was banging the table with my fist on Undisputed 2 years ago saying, pay the man, pay Ezekiel Elliott top dollar. And he stayed down in Cabo right up to the end of camp. And then Jerry crumbled, buckled, and paid him the top salary of any running back in the National Football League. How did that work out? It didn't. He has never lived up to being the top paid running back ever since, and I don't think he ever will. I hope I'm wrong, but it doesn't feel that way. And then obviously Jerry had to sit back and watch what happened to two quarterbacks who went at the top of Dak's draft, Jared Goff in L.A., Carson Wentz in Philly. Both of those teams had to eat huge dead cap money hits to get rid of those two quarterbacks.
You told me a year and a half ago, if Dak were to take this Cowboy team to the Super Bowl, you'd be willing to pay him $40+ million. Well, Jared Goff did that. Carson Wentz had an 11-2 record before he wrecked his knee, had them on the way. So for them to sign that deal, but let me ask you a question, Skip. Let's just look at it like this. Do you think Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills will have reservations about paying Josh Allen? Do you believe the Baltimore Ravens would have reservations about paying Lamar Jackson?
Yep. No. Okay, if they asked for $50 million, would the Bills have reservations about $50 million for Josh Allen? Yeah, they would.
They can't. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why they won't. See, think about this, Skip. Patrick Mahomes got $45 million with 2 years left on a deal and 2 franchise tags. So theoretically, the Kansas City Chiefs didn't have to do anything for 4 years. Dak Prescott says, you want me to take $34, $35 million when you only got me for 1 more year with a franchise tag. No, I'm not going to do that. Josh Allen has 4 years. So sure, he's going to give Buffalo some wiggle room. Sure, Lamar Jackson is going to give them some wiggle room because they don't have to do nothing theoretically for another 3 to 4 years. So you're sacrificing some money for better security. Dak says, I've got no security. I'm up.
Okay, so I can't fix that. I can't help it. A fair offer got made, says you, and he turned it down.
Yes.
They want unreasonable money. The kind of money I'm not sure Dak could ever live up to. Sure, if he could go win a Super Bowl, I'd say, thank you, God, for that. But he's 1-2 in the postseason. He's played very well in the postseason, but he's 1-2. And I keep telling you, over his last 17 starts, he's 6-11 as the starting quarterback. Mm-hmm. I can't defend it. 2 years ago, going back to the stretch run, the last 13 games, you gave him F 7 times in 13 games for his performance on Sunday, right here on a Monday Undisputed. You gave him an F, as in failed, as in flunked. And the point is, he was pretty bad. I struggled to defend him. I've been the biggest Dak fan, but I can't defend that. My point is, I'm afraid that the blood has gotten so bad between Jerry Jones, who, remember, early that year, I'm going back 2 seasons ago, what did he say? He said, we are imminent to get the contract done. This is right after the Zeke deal got done. We are imminent to get Dak done. That means they had agreed upon the money. They were crossing T's and dotting I's in the contract, and all of a sudden, the money got jerked out from underneath Jerry Jones because April Fools in September, Jerry, all of a sudden, they want way more money because Dak got off to a hot start against 3 bad teams. Jerry doesn't play that way. Once you offend him in a negotiation, it's hard to ever get back on track. So my point is, it looks like, it feels like, it smells like he's going to play under the tag this year for, what is it, about $38 million. And it's a great salary. And he's going to make a lot of money from what was the first one, almost 32. So let's say 32 and 38.
Right.
It's a lot of money he's going to make for those 2 years. And then it feels like he'll be gone. And when he leaves, you'll get nothing in return for him. I hate that scenario. So obviously, if there was some pie-in-the-sky way that Jerry could make a deal with John Schneider in Seattle to swap problems, Russell to Dallas, Dak to Seattle, I would love it. But you know and I know, first of all, speaking of bad blood, they have crossed, swords a couple of times over negotiate. Remember when they tried to trade for Earl Thomas? They thought they had that deal done with John Schneider. And at the last second, he upped the 2 to a 1. And I think Jerry's a do not invite him with John Schneider. So everything is bad. Everywhere I turn, it feels wrong, wrong, wrong. Well, you're loving this because you want to see Dak wreck my cap and not be able to live up to $45 million a year. And you want to see my Cowboys tumble because they won't be able to provide Dak nearly enough supporting cast. I get it. I know what you're rooting for, but I feel stuck.
No. Actually, I'm not. And we can go talk to our bosses. But for what I'm hearing, the NFL want a 100% markup from all the networks. So whatever you're paying, they want to go a 100%. So they want to go up that. And that's like, so the agents are saying, whoa, wait a minute. You mean to tell me you want ESPN, CBS, NBC, Fox to give you 100% on what they're paying you more than what they're paying you right now, but you want to do this? So the agent says, oh, no, sir, no, sir. That's why guys want this money. That's why Dak held out. He knew this new TV money is coming. Now, I don't know if they're going to get 100% markup, but they're going to get 30, 40% markup. And agents and the players they're representing said, we want some of that pie too.
Shannon,
see, the agents want to see this is what?
The cap just fell $20 million per team. It fell from $200 million to $180 million. It's a bad time to be trying to squeeze a new Mahomes deal under the Cowboys cap.
So let me ask you a question. So 2022, 23, 24, 25, the cap's going to stay $180 million.
No.
Or is it going up?
No, but now.
Okay, so I need my salary to, hold on, no, Skip, hold on. He's not signing a one-year deal. So I need my salary to reflect an increase in the cap going up. But you and Jerry, you want to reflect, okay, this is what the cap is right now. Although the cap will probably be 40% more in 4 years, I want you to stay right here. And Dak and his representatives and these agents and the players that they're representing said, no, that doesn't make any sense.
Shannon.
So if it's a pandemic, let me ask you a question, Skip.
Shannon, it's one thing to make a big mistake on Zeke making $15 million a year. It's quite another to make a bigger mistake with Dak making $45-ish million a year for 4 years. If you're wrong about that one, you are dead in the water for the next 6 or 8 years. And I hate the thought of that because I'm not sure Dak can live up to eating up what that could get close to 25% of the cap. It's just too much to pay for a quarterback who hasn't proven to be anywhere near Deshaun or Mahomes.
I don't really know who's running the other networks, but I know two because I work for them. Sean McManus runs CBS Sports, and Eric Shanks run Fox Sports. Yeah, big. How about this here? When the NFL come in talking about they want to increase 100%, so y'all know we're in a pandemic, right? We're in a pandemic. Because that's what y'all tell y'all players, we're in a pandemic. We can't get no increase. So we're in a pandemic. Let's check back in another 2-3 years when we can come out of this pandemic. Because just like y'all saying, y'all lost money, we lost money also. So how about y'all check back with us in 2023, 2024, maybe 25, and we'll get with you.
Okay, you'd have a point. You'd have a point if the National Football League was an uncapped sport. But because the players keep signing off on a cap every time they have a collective bargaining negotiation, they keep saying, yep, we agree. Yep, we agree. Then you got no argument.
So what you would skip. So what you want to do, you want to say, okay, we got a cap. We can only make this. So the cap can't go up this year. The cap can only go down.
What if there's no cap? Then you'd have all the argument you'd want because, So it's easy for the NFL to say we want 100% more money from Fox and ESPN because they can. We're not dealing with the cap in those negotiations.
Skip, all I'm saying is if you're telling me the cap's going to stay at $180 million for the next 4 to 5 years, you have a very compelling argument. But you and I both know the cap is not going to stay at $180 million over the next 4 or 5 years. So the players want their contract to reflect the increase in money that's coming in. So I want that to increase on my paycheck. That's it.
Yeah.
That ain't complicated.
Right. I mean, the cap, it complicates things, but it's kind of a simple question. How bad do the Cowboys want Dak Prescott? I mean, how bad do they want the guy?
Jenny.
And we are still asking
how bad
that
you want
question.
to Skip?
How bad do you want the guy?
Not that bad.
Apparently not. We're gonna switch gears, guys.
I see.
We're going to switch gears. We will get back to the Cowboys. I promise you that. But we got to talk about Tiger Woods. He is continuing to recover from his recent surgery following that crash, and he's in high spirits, according to reports. Golfers paid tribute to Tiger yesterday by wearing Sunday red. Phil Mickelson, Rory McIlroy, Tony Finau were among the dozens that showed their support. Tiger responded by tweeting, quote, "It's hard to explain how touching today was. When I turned on the TV and saw all the red shirts. To every golfer and every fan, you are truly helping me get through this tough time." Now, guys, we were off when this happened, and so we're just now getting kind of the ability to react to the shocking news of this crash. Shannon, can you actually see Tiger ever winning another PGA tournament or major again?
Skip, at the bare minimum, Tiger Woods is somewhere between 12 and 16 months from getting back to playing competitive golf. 12 to 18 months. And that's being conservative. Wow. 2 fractured legs, a shattered ankle. Okay. Skip, the guy just had back surgery, a month ago? Mm-hmm. And I know people are trying to equate this to the Ben Hogan situation. Skip, Ben Hogan was the greatest golfer in the world at the time. And at 36 years of age, got hit head on by a Greyhound bus. But the difference between Ben Hogan was 36, Tiger's 45. The difference between the two golfers and what they're going through, hell, Tiger had already been in 3 car wrecks. With the knee injuries, with the back surgeries, with the knee surgery, Skip, Tiger Woods had already been in car wrecks. So now you compound that at this age, 45. So at the earliest, Tiger Woods is going to come back and play competitive golf, Skip, is what, 46 and a half, 47? Skip, man, I really hate projecting 12, 18, 24 months that far out, Skip. And when you're dealing with these kind of injuries, Skip, this is an Alex Smith injury, Skip. You run a very, very high risk of infection. There's not somebody that had ankle problems and when he played. There's not a whole lot of blood flow. So that's the problem. To make sure we get proper blood flow down there, Skip, so it heals. You run the risk of infection. So, Skip, look, I would love to say Tiger Woods is going to come back and he's going to do it. But, Skip, I would be lying if I sat here and said, I'm not so sure that Tiger's going to come back and play golf. And if he does play golf, what will he look like? On 2 broken legs with rod and shattered ankle and a back. Skip, there was no guarantee he was going to even play in the Masters. So we know 2021, that's gone. Yep. That's gone, Skip. Mm-hmm. So guess what? His birthday is, I think, is December 30th. I think he and LeBron have the same birthday.
Same.
So that's 46.
Yep.
That's 46, Skip. So 40. So he's not playing competitive golf this year. He'll be 46, heading into 47. Skip, I just hope he can just come back and play golf. Can he win out, Skip? I wouldn't bet against him. Yeah. But I tell you what, I'm damn sure not going to bet anything I own with him.
Okay, I hear every point you just made, all good ones. But you know how I always say there's one guy in sports I don't bet against, that's Tom Brady. When it comes to injuries and coming back from injuries, there's another guy I do not bet against, and it's this man, Eldrick Tiger Woods. What he keeps coming back from in his career has been beyond comprehension to me. Because, Shannon, you obviously played a very violent sport called football. Mm-hmm. I'm hard-pressed to think of anybody who played your game who's had as many injuries to as many body parts as Tiger Woods has had, and he plays golf.
No.
Right? I know our man Mark Schlereth has had, how many surgeries was it? Like, I don't know.
20.
20?
20 on his back, knees, and elbow.
Okay. So maybe that's a little beyond Tiger, but I'm not sure. And yet, Shannon, this guy, when challenged, this guy, when there's a storyline to be had, a narrative to be written, you better be careful because he might just come back before age 50. And I would not be shocked at all if he won another PGA tournament, just a weekly tour stop tournament.
Yeah.
But okay. Shannon, I wouldn't bet against him winning another major championship. Again, I don't know the total extent. You know, there was some stories out there, some rampant, wild speculation that he could lose one of his legs over this. I think we're beyond that. I think he will walk again. I think he will play golf again. Then it's a matter of, okay, now you're aging. You're going toward 50. Shannon, if you look at what he has done again and again in his career, it's just beyond comprehension. All the times, all the surgery. He's had 5 back surgeries. Well, as you know, the sport of golf, it's all about that. It's all about twisting. It's all about torque with your torso. Well, what gets most stressed? Your back. And he's 5 times. Yeah. He just had his 5th back procedure. And they've been from top to bottom. He's had them up in his neck like your brother had. Your brother Sterling obviously had a what do you call it, up the top of the spine?
C1, C2.
Yeah.
Yes, and he had neck fusion.
Yeah, and then Tiger's had it from top to bottom because he's down at L5, S1, having micro discectomies at the bottom of his spine. So all the way up and down his spine, he's got problems. And then I looked over, Golf Digest had maybe it was Golf Channel, I think it was, actually, that had a timeline on all his injuries, and we don't have enough show for me to go through this whole thing, but it started. He had ACL surgery back in 2002. And Hank Haney in the book, The Big Miss about Tiger, his point was that he thought it was self-inflicted because Tiger tried to go become a Navy SEAL to follow in his father's footsteps, who was a Marine who fought in Vietnam. And Hank thinks that he tore his ACL, going through maneuvers with the SEALs. I don't know. So some of this is self-inflicted, but then he had cartilage damage to the left knee in 2008. Then he had another ACL surgery on a left knee in 2008. You remember the U.S. Open surgery? Then there was the neck surgery, bulging disc. He had terrible Achilles tendonitis, what AD is going through right now. Then he had MCL damage. Then elbow strain. I could just go on and on. He's had nearly every part of his body has had some kind of surgery or some kind of major problem that caused him to miss golf tournaments. And here we are, and he's got no knees left and a back that is chronic at best. And now he's had a car crash.
He got an 80-year-old. He got the back of an 80-year-old, Skip.
Absolutely. Yet there's just something about this guy. And the other thing, Shannon, that struck me yesterday was the love that was poured out by his fellow competitors. That was never there pre-scandal. Tiger obviously went through a horrendous time with his scandal with his wife, and we know about all that. Now we got this new documentary that's out there on HBO, and the point is that in the beginning, when he was dominating the way I've never seen any human dominate the sport of golf, which is almost undominatable.
And you won't see it again.
Right? Yeah. And what did he in the beginning, he was aloof, he was arrogant, he was cold because he was a cold-blooded golf killer, just the way Jordan, who became a friend of his, was a cold-blooded basketball killer. And nobody really liked him. They feared him, but they didn't like him. And after the scandal, he's become beloved by all his competitors. And you know why? Because they all realized he's made them millions of dollars because he put golf on the map, on the mainstream map, the way it never was pre-Tiger. So now we get this outpouring yesterday, which was dear to my heart and dear to Tiger's heart. And we do miss Tiger. But I still have this, and this isn't just because I'm rooting for it. I just think he's a guy who you better not bet against when it comes to bouncing back from the most horrific injuries.
Skip, if you look at the guys on the tour, it's kind of like the Kobe and LeBron era. Jordan was their idol.
Yeah.
You look at the guys on the tour now, Tiger is their idol. A lot of these guys are playing and they emulated. They wanted to be Tiger Woods. And so in order for them to play next to their idols, Skip, think about it. There are a lot of times you never get an opportunity to meet your idol. And if you do meet him, Skip, you shake his hand, it's just in passing. Well, I'm playing on the tour with my idol, the guy that I grew up watching, wanting to be like, could imagine what it's like walking up the 18th at Augusta National or St. Andrews or, one of the Whistling Straits, Skip. I'm thinking, I'm Tiger. They're 8, 9, 10 years of age, and that's what they're thinking because that's what they see Tigers doing. Skip, look, we know a lot of guys that's been successful And when they're up at the apex, they give you their butt to kiss. But it takes something bringing them down to the level, and they can look you can look them eye to eye, that humanizes them and makes them humble. I'm not so sure had Tiger not gotten knocked off that pedestal, he would have ever changed his ways.
I would agree with that.
He would have still been cursing. He would have still been swearing. He would have still been the same arrogant guy giving you his butt to kiss. But it was that scandal, just like OJ and just like a lot of other entertainers and celebrities, that when they reach the crescendo, the mountaintop, they look down on everybody. But all of a sudden, when you come tumbling down the hill and you're in the valley along with me and you got to look me eye to eye, then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I was a jerk when I was standing on top of the mountain. And just like I got up, I could have easily come down because here I am now. So I wish him a speedy recovery. But Skip, I think even though you're not willing to bet against him, I don't think you think he's playing golf in 2021.
No, I do not. And again, I don't know the exact extent of these injuries he suffered, but it sounds awful. And it sounds like it's going to take a while just to learn to walk again. So, let alone swing again. So, yeah, I'm with you, but I'm pulling for him. And I just have a sneaking suspicion we will see him back at the top again.
All right, Skip.
So in other words, Jack Nicklaus did win a major, Skip, at 46. He won the Masters
I was
at
there.
46. Okay. So you're thinking Tiger could win one, and that was in 1986. So you believe at 47, 48, Tiger could win another major. Forget the Masters, any major.
Yeah, and real quick point, you brought up Ben Hogan. I once interviewed Ben Hogan about that near-fatal car crash that he suffered when they head on the bus, he and his wife, driving to the next tournament.
Yes.
And he did come back from that, as you point out. He was much younger than Tiger, but those were the days when I think it was the U.S. Open Saturday, they made him play 36 holes, and he told me how excruciating it was to walk 36 holes on what was left of his legs. But he won the U.S. Open at Marion. So it's possible even for Tiger at age 46, 7, 8, whatever it might be.
No mercy.
Time for our trending story, brought to you by the all-new Kia Sorento, the world's first storytelling machine. Well, former Celtic and teammate of Larry Bird, Cedric Maxwell, told the New York Times that Luka Doncic is, quote, Larry Bird reincarnated. Luka was very humble when asked about the comparison, saying he can't be compared to Larry Bird just yet with so many games left in his career. So, Shannon, are you surprised Cedric Maxwell is saying this about Luka?
Skip, I think we need to get a little backdrop because most people, a lot of basketball people in the circles know him as Cornbread Maxwell. And he was a heck of a basketball player, and people might not remember this, Skip, but he was Finals MVP in 1981 over Larry Bird. He came a couple of years before Bird, and the starting lineup was Bird, McHale, Parrish, and Cornbread Maxwell. That's a hell of a starting five, Skip. Skip, I didn't second guess this, but I told you years ago, I said, Skip, he's the closest thing that we've seen since Larry Bird. Now, Skip, he's not the shooter that Larry Bird is. Larry Bird was a two-time 50-40-90 guy, Skip. 50% from the floor, 40% from the three, 90% from the free throw line. Nobody else has done it more than once. Bird did it twice. 3-time three-point shooting contest winner. So we know what he can do shooting the basketball. But, Skip, his ability, and you look at his body, you look at Bird's body, Skip, you're like, ain't none of these guys about to live in no workout contest. But they will light your butt up. They can't get up and down the court like Russ or John Wall. They can't leap out the gym like Zion Williamson. But I tell you what they can do. They play at their pace. You can't speed them up. You can't slow them down. They're going to get to their spot, and they're going to let it go. And there's nothing you can do about it. Now, Larry Bird, people might not know this, but Larry Bird was a 24, 10, and 6 guy. Let that sink in. Average 24. For a career, 10 rebounds for a career, 6 assists for a career. Now, although Luka, as I said, Skip, he's not the shooter, but he can rebound and facilitate just as good as Larry Bird. Now, you just realized, Skip, he just had a birthday yesterday. The guy's 22. Let that sink in for just a second. He's 22, and he's 19 clear of anybody with triple doubles at that same age. Skip, and the guy, you remember the buzzer beater that he hit against the Clippers last year in the playoffs, and then against the Boston Celtics. I don't know if I've ever seen a guy, Skip, hit a three to give a team the lead. The other team comes back down the court, hit another shot. They take the lead back, and then he comes right back and hit another three for the winner at 21 years of age. Skip, he's the closest thing that I've seen, and you know what I think of Larry Bird. He was my favorite player. I had the T-shirts. I had the posters stuck up to that cinder block cement home that my grandmother had that I put tape on the back of the posters so they would stick to the wall. Yes, I had the Larry Bird posters. I had the Larry Bird shoes. I had the Larry Bird T-shirts. Skip, Luka Doncic is the closest thing that I've seen since Larry Bird. I'm not going to say he's going to be better or for worse, because Bird was a three-time consecutive. He's the last guy to win 3 consecutive MVPs. In an era with Jordan, Kareem, Magic, and Olajuwon, and Charles Barkley, and Karl Malone, he won 3 in a row. So that speaks to what he is, what he was. But Skip, Luka's the closest thing we've seen to him.
Okay, let me state my case by starting with the fact I was not a Larry Bird guy. I was a Magic man. Till death do I part. I still am. So this isn't about me trying to defend my favorite player, because he was not my favorite player. Larry Bird was not. Cedric Maxwell, cornbread, is now a radio commentator for the Boston Celtics. I am shocked that he is making this case, because he's going so far as you're just saying closest thing to. He's saying this is Larry Bird reincarnated. He goes on to say that this is a carbon copy of Larry Bird. Really? That is absolute, utter blasphemy, especially from a man who actually covers and comments on the Celtics, who is part of the, dare I say, Celtics family. To your point, he was the MVP in Larry's first finals, and he deserved it.
Don't you give him some credit?
Okay,
but don't you give him some credit, Skip, having played with Larry?
Yeah,
yes.
But it actually starts to come across to me as a little bit of jealousy of Larry's legend, a little bit of resentment of just how big Larry remains in Celtics Nation. And to go that far, to say that he's already better than Larry was at this age, well, that's a problem, because Larry was at Indiana State at this age, right?
He was a senior.
Yeah, he was a senior at Indiana State. Okay, now let's go back and start to compare. What do we see from Luka? Well, we see a lot, and I give you the rebounding, and I definitely give you, he is a gifted passer. I don't know if he's exactly up to Larry Bird's, because Larry Bird was at the highest echelon of distributing the basketball. I don't know if I see that yet, but he's very good at passing the basketball. Yet,
yes,
by the standards of a superstar, a guy who was the front runner, the MVP favorite going into this year, he's a lousy shooter. He's lousy, Shannon. You can't. Larry Bird was a great shooter. I'll just say this. Luka is below average. He's actually improved a little from 3. He's up to 35%. It's kind of in the LeBron range.
Yes.
That ranks 130th of 167 qualified three-point shooters. 130th. He's actually improved a little bit at the free throw line. He's up to 75.9%, even though a week ago tonight against Memphis, he was 2 for 9 from the free throw line, was Baby Bird. 2 for 9. Larry Bird led the NBA in free throw shooting 4 times. Think about that. 4 times he led. Yeah. 5 times he shot better than 90%. For his career, he's almost a 90% free throw shooter for his career. Well, you're disqualified from that argument right there, because you're up to 75.9. That's your career best so far. Then, go ahead.
He's never going to be Larry Bird shooting the basketball. I don't believe he'll ever be Bird shooting the basketball.
Well,
not from 3, not from mid-range, not from the free throw line.
I don't even see a glimpse. I don't see faint hope of that. And then he does turn the ball over. Larry turned the ball over at a fairly high rate, but this is a higher rate because Luka has led the NBA in turnovers much of the year. He's now fallen back to 3rd. Way to go. So he's improving slightly. But now we get to the key stat. This is the disqualifier in the Larry Bird comparison. This is clutch shooting. You mentioned the one game he has had, which was last Tuesday night against Boston at Dallas. That's the only game. Going into that game in the regular season over the last 2 regular seasons on potential game-tying or go-ahead field goal attempts in the final minute of regulation or overtime, would you believe Luka was 0 for 13 going into that game? And to your point, he got all the way up to 2 out of 15 because he did it twice, ironically, against Larry's old team in the last minute. He did it twice with 15.8 seconds and then 0.7 seconds. Yep. He did. God bless him. He pulled it off twice with 2 threes. And to your point, in the playoffs last year, he did hit the game winner, the walk-off against the Clippers without Porzingis in obviously a series that was ill-fated for them because it was basically Luka against the Clippers. But I give you those 3 shots he made, but 0 for 13 going into last Tuesday's game in Dallas? Really? Well, that's horrendously unclutch.
It is, Skip, but I think the thing is that you're looking at a 20-year-old player with grown men, and although he's played with grown men basically his entire career since he was about 15 to 16, now you're seeing the development. You're seeing him, the understanding. Skip, it's not like you don't see Luka shooting catch-and-shoot threes. Everything is dribble, step back. I mean, have we seen him shoot anything other than a step-back three? I mean, James Harden might have started it and mastered it, but Luka is coming in a strong second. It's almost like, they will free up Steph, and Steph will get some catch-and-shoot threes, but Luka, everything is dribble between the legs, step back, boom.
I give you that.
So he's shooting a lot of contested, hard, 28, 30-foot threes. But, Skip, and I think also, Skip, when you talk about Larry Bird, white, you look at their bodies, non-athletic, Skip, you don't say, but man, I love to see these guys probably just abbed up and got shoulders out the yin-yang.
Yep.
They don't jump like Zion, Skip. They don't have the speed like a Russ or a John Wall from court end to end. They ain't got handles like Kyrie or Steph or like Isaiah used to have.
Okay.
But
now, 2 quick last points. Cedric Maxwell did say in the end, I want to see one more gear from Luka, and that's the leadership gear. So do I, because Larry Bird was the ultimate leader of the Celtics.
Yeah.
And yet, Luka, I watch him just about every time he plays. I don't love his body language. They're now a 500 team. They're 16-16. This is the MVP favorite going into the year. And they've lost a lot of close late games. And when they do, he's pointing fingers. He's got some of that Aaron Rodgers going on where it's like, what are you guys doing? Why'd you let me down? Give me the basketball. Whatever it is, I don't love his body language, and I don't think he's the unquestioned leader of the Dallas Mavericks. Well, now you're fully disqualified from the Larry Bird conversation. And that brings me back to the one thing that I did love that James Harden said yesterday about him. James Harden said that, to your point, you mentioned it earlier, you can't speed him up. And this is genius talking about genius. Harden talking about Luka. He's got offensive genius because when he gets in the lane, what I will give you, that you can't make him go faster. You can't make him take a bad shot. He will work on you, and he can't jump. He can only do it with his savvy, with his head, with his skill, with his Euro stepping. And he will get to the rim on you, whether you're Marcus Morris in the playoffs. Marcus just couldn't deal with him. And Marcus is as sly and physical a defender as we have in the league. But he couldn't keep him from the rim because he'll work on you and work on you and work on you, and suddenly he's either going to get to the rim or the foul line.
Skip, the biggest difference between Luka and Larry Bird is mentality. Larry Bird took offense if you said anything that you could guard him, that you could D him up. He took anything, and if you were not top-notch, he told the opposing coach, why would you put him on me? You got better defenders than him, and you disrespect me like that? I need to see Luka go to that mentality. There's nobody in this gym that can do anything with me. That's how Larry thought. That's what made him unique. That's why the brothers respected Larry, because Larry gonna light you up, and he was gonna tell you in the process
he would
of
tell
lighting you up.
Yep.
I'm not so sure Luka's 22, Skip, and so Luka hadn't got to that gear yet.
Yep, I agree.
I believe if he gets to that gear, Skip, that mentality, Skip, the leagues don't notice.
No mercy.
Well, Drew Brees hasn't officially retired, and a new workout video has some second-guessing if he actually will retire this offseason. One of the captions on the video said, quote, "Something must be brewing," which has only fueled the speculation that the 42-year-old QB may not be done yet. So, Shannon, could you see Brees taking the Brady path to another team here?
Hell no. Drew Brees is just doing this to stay in shape. And a lot of not enough guys do that, Skip. Once they retire, they maintain the same eating habits, but they don't maintain the same workout schedule. And we see them allow themselves to get overweight and to have a multitude of diseases and end up having a lot of different surgeries and a lot of physical ailments. I think Drew Brees is doing this to maintain the level of fitness. Skip, I saw the last 3 playoff games. I don't know if you saw them, but we saw Drew Brees not play well against the Rams. We can talk about the blown call all we want to. Drew Brees did not play well. We saw the home loss against the Minnesota Vikings. Drew Brees did not play well. And then we saw the last time in the divisional round, Drew Brees was god-awful. He was terrible. So it's over. It is over. Don't show me a quarterback pushing a sled. Show me a 42-year-old quarterback throwing the deep out. Show me him throwing the comeback. Skip, I don't want to see Usain Bolt shooting a basketball and say, oh, yeah, he coming back and running the 2021 Japan Olympics. No. Skip, it's over. Let it go. Drew, there's nothing else you could accomplish. Nothing else is going to give you validation. You got 5,000-yard passing seasons. You've been a Super Bowl MVP. You're one of the great quarterbacks, one of the great players in history. Let it go, because we saw your last outing. That's it. And what we see in the playoffs, Skip, the playoffs, they're getting worse and worse every year. It was bad against the Rams. It was a little worse against Minnesota, and he just stepped off a cliff against Tampa. Skip, we saw that. Where is he going to go that have the level of talent that he would be leaving behind? Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Jerry Cook, don't know if they're re-signing him. Offensive line solid. Alvin Kamara, Murray, a defense where is he going to go that's better than what he has it? Hell, Sean Payton goes like, nah, bro, you're not coming back here. Nah, we can't have that. No, Skip, it's over. Let it go, Drew.
The only point
continue to work out and stay in shape.
Yeah, I agree. Sean Payton wants to cut bait. He wants to start over. I assume it's with Jameis. It could be with Taysom Hill. It could be a combination thereof. But I'm sorry. I saw too much good from Drew Brees during the regular season last year to say he should go home and stay home. Because, Shannon, regular season last year, he completed 71% of his passes. It was 70.5. Aaron Rodgers led the league at 70.7% completion. Well, I don't know anybody who can throw those mid-range darts any better than Drew Brees can still throw them. He's obviously turned 42 in January. But last year he was 24 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Well, let's just do a hypothetical. They're about to play quarterback roulette in the National Football League. They're about to play musical chairs, and that includes the draft. Well, some team out there will get left without a quarterback, at least for the next year. Wouldn't some team take a shot with if they don't have a young quarterback? Maybe they draft a Trey Lance, and he's just too young to start. Wouldn't you want Drew Brees to be a bridge to Trey Lance, potentially? Now, if Belichick drafts Trey Lance, then maybe you'd want to keep Cam there. But barring that, if you're Belichick, would you rather have Cam or Drew Brees for 1 year next year? Help me out on that.
Skip, Drew can't push the ball down the field.
Well, neither can Cam.
The question is, Skip, but think about, okay, Skip, you say he played too well. What have you seen in the playoffs? That's the way we measure great quarterback, especially once you reach a certain level. What have you seen the last 3 playoff games? from Drew Brees.
Okay, I got it. Can't defend it, won't even try to defend it. But I did see Drew Brees last year twice outplay Tom Brady head-to-head and win the division. He led that team to a division championship, and he had Michael Thomas for, 7 total games, and Michael Thomas never looked like Michael Thomas the whole year. So I thought he was very good by regular season standards. He was better than a lot of other quarterbacks I saw during the regular season.
Yeah.
As you know, it's hard to find one.
But Skip, that's not how we measure quarterbacks. The Drew Breeses, the Aaron Rodgers, the Tom Bradys, the Patrick Mahomes. That's not how we measure them, because we know they've been great in the regular season. Now it comes time where you get your legendary status. And what we've seen over the last 3 years from Drew Brees come playoff time has been he's left a lot to be desired. Skip, Tom Brady did not leave New England because they were loaded with talent. It's just the opposite. He left because they had none. And Clyde Christensen, and maybe we talk about this, Skip, is that he says, hell, he saw what Peyton did. Well, Peyton went to a loaded team, Skip, like you said. Now, they were 8-8. They won the division. But he inherited Demaryius Thomas, Julius Thomas, Eric Decker, Ryan Clady, who was a Pro Bowl left tackle. Offensive line was solid. No Sean Marino. They got Wes Welker in free agency. And then you had Von Miller. You had Chris Harris Jr. They were loaded defensively. Malik Jackson, Derek Wolfe, Dranny Trevathan, Brandon Marshall. Skip, they were loaded.
Okay.
Just like Tampa.
All right. So who's to say that Drew couldn't find a situation comparable to that in need of a one-year bridge quarterback? I don't know. Nobody saw Tom going to Tampa. And by the way, weren't you the guy who told me again and again right here on this show that Tom Brady was pathetic in his final playoff game? Trust him in a playoff game again?
Skip, but here's the thing. If Drew Brees is going to find a situation comparable to what Brady inherited in Tampa or what Peyton inherited in Denver, okay, I wish him all the best of luck, because then you have some guys. You're going to have guys that can pick up the slack. Skip, I just don't see it. Tom's arm never looked like, even at Tom's worst, his arm never looked like Brees' arm has looked at moments in time this year. If you take Tom Brady at his absolute worst, it has never looked like Brees' arm this year.
And again, Tom Brady led the National Football League this past season in air distance thrown. And he led the National Football League in 20-plus yard completions with 36. Well, Cam struggled. Again, cupboards bare, same basically group of receivers Brady couldn't work with in New England. But Cam, remember, his QBR last year was 30 of 33 qualified quarterbacks, and his air distance ranked 26th in the league last year because Cam was having a hard time throwing it downfield.
Well, but here's the thing, though, Skip. In that offense, Tom Brady air distance, if we probably go back and look at it, he probably ranked somewhere in the middle of the pack, because in that offense, Skip, you don't push the ball down the field. Everything is screens. Everything is shallow crosses. Everything, of that nature. So it's not like Tom was airing it out, with the exception of that brief stint in which he had Randy Moss, Skip. He didn't really air it out. Now, they would air it out with a couple of trick plays, gadget plays, Skip, the flea flickers, or they would throw it to the receiver, and then the receiver throw it down the field. But as far as Tom dropping back and throwing the ball down the field in New England like he did at Tampa, Skip, we didn't see that, with the exception of maybe, 17, 25 games when he had Randy Moss. But, Skip, Drew, like I said, even if you take Tom at his absolute worst, you take his 7, 8 worst games that he's played over the last 3 years, he never looked like Drew did against Tampa. He never looked like Drew did in the playoffs this year, Skip. There were times that Drew, Skip, it was a struggle for Drew to throw the ball 10 yards.
Okay, but who's to say that Drew Brees couldn't take the Brady path to rejuvenation, to new challenge, new set of circumstance, change of scenery? Hey, just on guts and guile, you wouldn't want Drew Brees. If you were stuck, and there'll be 2 or 3 teams that will get stuck for a quarterback, and there'll be other candidates out there. It now sounds like Washington's about to part ways with Alex Smith, so he'll be on the market too. Would I rather have Drew Brees or Alex Smith? I'd take Drew Brees, just because he's so accomplished. He knows how to do it, and he is one of the ultimate competitors I've ever seen. He will compete. He will fight you. And if you give him a new challenge where, again, he's 42 years of age, but if he says, I got to show them they were wrong, the way Brady showed Belichick how wrong he was, man, I would take a one-year shot at a fairly low-risk salary on Drew Brees if he would do that.
Well, Skip, you have to look at, he and Brady is totally different. Brady came with 6 Super Bowls, 9 Super Bowl appearances, although Drew has the one.
Yep.
So he has cachet, but not the cachet. It's almost like Tom Brady is the locker room whisperer. Is that you hear guys talk about, man, if Tom told me to walk on water, I'm like, okay, you ain't gonna, okay, I'll do that. If Tom said, you know what, man, drive my truck to the moon. Okay, I'll do that.
I got it.
So, Skip, there are levels to this right now. And Tom Brady is at a level that I don't know if we've ever seen another guy leave one locker room and have the kind of cachet automatically walking in the door. Sure, there are a lot of guys that's won. Joe Montana had that at Tampa. Don't know if he had the level of talent, and maybe Joe was a little farther in decline than what Tom is. But, Skip, I don't see it. I don't see it with Drew. And like I said, I don't believe that Sean Payton wants that. Because Sean Payton believes that if he had a more seasoned, healthier quarterback, he believes he could have beat Tampa. Because they had him on the road, Skip. They had a lead until Jared Cook fumbled the ball. But it wasn't because Drew Brees, Jameis threw the touchdown.
Yep. But
I just think Drew is just doing conditioning to stay physically fit.
Well, he might be,
That's
but
my personal
why
opinion.
would you post it? I think he's trying to send a message. Don't forget about me. I could be available.
No mercy.
Well, the Lakers led by as many as 35 points on their way to a 117-91 victory over the Warriors last night. LeBron had 19 points and sat the whole fourth quarter. LA is now 3-4 since Anfernee Davis went out with a calf injury 2 weeks ago. And in that stretch, LeBron has averaged 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. Fox Sports NBA analyst Chris Broussard is now joining us. So, Chris, in your opinion, has LeBron helped or hurt his MVP case in AD's absence here?
I guess you can say he's hurt it slightly. So, and here's why. He lost a little bit of ground. Okay, 2 weeks ago, before AD went down, LeBron was my clear-cut favorite and many other people's clear-cut favorite. Now he's come back to the pack a little bit, but you can still make a strong argument for him being the favorite. I've got LeBron, Joel Embiid, and here's the dark horse coming strong, James Harden, as the top 3 candidates. Those guys are fighting it out. And what's helping LeBron or any of these guys really is that no team with a superstar leader is running away with it. Like last year you had Giannis, they played on a 70-game win or 70-win pace. All right, and he's got these huge numbers. So he clearly pulled away early. Remember Steph, when they won 73 games, he pulled away early, ended up being unanimous. Even LeBron, 3 of his 4 MVPs, they won 60 or more games. This year, there's nobody playing on that pace other than Utah. And while Donovan Mitchell is really good, he's not an MVP, not a strong candidate. That's really a team-oriented group they have in Utah that's winning based on team ball. Even when I look at the top 3, Embiid, Harden, LeBron, I can pick out warts in all of them. Okay, LeBron, if we include the Denver game where AD went down after only 14 minutes of play, yeah, the Lakers lost 5 of 6. Okay, that's a knock against LeBron. James Harden, obviously, the way he left Houston, which isn't even the bad part, but the fact that he quit on them the first few games, I'm really not going to hold that against him because he's playing so well. But everybody, other people, other voters might hold that against him. Let's look at Joel Embiid, who I'd like to call my front runner, but then I look and I see that Embiid, the Sixers have won. They've gone 4-4 over their last 8 games with Embiid, and he just went through a harrowing stretch. I mean, a harrowing stretch where he shot 26% from the field in 3 straight games. Twice against Toronto and once against Dallas. This is a 7-footer. A 7-footer shooting 26%? I mean, that's ridiculous.
And they lost to Cleveland. They lost to Cleveland.
I can't say Embiid's pulling away. It's tight. It's LeBron and Embiid and Harden's. So He lost a little ground, but he's still very, very, very much alive.
Skip Bailey, you don't like to hear that. Chris Broussard, you hurt Skip feeling. I came back on a Monday morning just to hear that
Skip
something
didn't
more.
think I'd point that out.
Hey, I don't want to say anything, but they lost to Cleveland also the other night, too. You saw that, too, Chris? The Cleveland Cavaliers beat Philly.
He put up numbers,
but my thing is,
they lost.
see, but here's the thing. People keep saying he's played without AD, but he also played 4 games without Dennis Schroeder. And so my argument, Chris, if you take for 4 games, let's take 4. We're going to say Joel Embiid, you're going to play 4 games without Tobias Harris, without Ben Simmons. James Harden, you're going to play 4 games without Kevin Durant, without Kyrie. And you're going to play 4 games without Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray. So you're going to play 4 games without your second and third best players. What do you think their record's going to be? And so that's why I said, although LeBron didn't gain any ground, I don't believe he lost any ground for a lot of the reasons what you said. None of the other MVP candidates did anything spectacular as far as record-wise that says, okay, yeah, I'm front and center now. Take a look at me. Because as you mentioned, Joel Embiid went 6 of 20, shot 6 of 20 against somebody the other night. And the Cleveland Cavaliers beat them. So all this, and Skip going to tell you that LeBron James with this, I get that Dennis Schroeder is not the equivalent of Kyrie. He's not the equivalent of maybe some of these other teams' third best player. But what he provides on both the offensive and the defensive end, he's their best on-ball defender. Not only can he create for himself, he can create for others and take some of the burden off LeBron. Skip, if you look at it last night, Chris, and I know you've noticed it also, LeBron played exclusively off the ball. Dennis Schroeder handled all the points.
Right.
And when Caruso came in, Caruso took it over. That was a conscious effort to take LeBron off the ball hey, we're going to cut down on some of these minutes. We're going to cut down. We need other guys to step up. And the only way we can ensure that they step up is to take you off the ball to make sure you don't have to create for everybody else. I like what I saw. I still have LeBron in the slight lead because none of the other MVP candidates, as you mentioned, Chris, did anything over the last 10 days to show that they've taken the mantle away from LeBron.
You guys really amuse me. You have both made me LOL with all the excuses you have made for LeBron James. If memory serves, I don't think Jenny Taft asked this question. Has Joel Embiid helped or hurt his MVP case? I don't think that was the question. I think it was, has LeBron, right? Yes.
Stay pat.
Oh, stop it. He stunk. He has stunk without AD, and don't bring me Dennis Schroeder. Again, the apologist that you are for LeBron James, it's amusing and it's baffling because now we've turned Dennis Schroeder, as I told you to start the show, into Kyrie meets Patrick Beverley. LeBron said after the game last night, oh, Dennis is one of the best on-the-ball defenders we have in this league. Well,
he didn't lie.
Oh, he didn't? How many, let's see, all-defense has Schroeder made? No, he hadn't made one all-defensive team. Patrick Beverley's made 3 all-defensive teams, and he's not a great point guard, but he can really defend at the highest level. So if you want to bring me Patrick Beverley, you know, I'll accept that. But don't tell me Dennis Schroeder is like some kind of Kyrie meets Patrick Beverley. It's preposterous to me. And you are sweeping under your little carpet that you keep off to the side. LeBron has been all-time career bad from the three-point line through the middle of February. For most of the month, he's shot 25% for the month. But he had a 9-game stretch in February in which he shot 20% as a high-volume three-point shooter. And those were, it started with the 2 for 10, and then it goes 3 of 9, 1 of 4, 0 of 5, 1 of 4, 1 of 6, 1 of 8, 2 of 10, and then he caps it off with a 1 of 5 at Utah as they got blown out. It's pathetic. He has led the NBA in turnovers for much of this stretch. He's now second in turnovers to Trae Young. And I step back and say, wait a second. He lost 3 straight home games to Brooklyn without Kevin Durant and then Miami, which has struggled
James
all
Harden.
year, and then Washington, which came in 10-17. Really? And against Washington, he just stunk it up from start to finish. He had 8 turnovers that should have been 9 because he ran over Bertans late in the game. He shot 2 of 10 from 3. And if we could quickly see this, he missed the free throw that would have won the game because he's the worst late-game superstar free throw shooter I have ever seen in all my career covering the NBA. And he got the and one on Russell Westbrook, and then he goes to the line, never up, never in, said my coach in high school, and he barely got it to the front of the rim. He's a horrible late-game clutch free throw shooter. So he missed that, and then he missed the 3 to win the game at the end of overtime against Washington. You can't beat Washington without Dennis Schroeder and AD. Again, he went backwards. He went south. His team went south. He started out 1-4 without AD, and I'm sorry, you can't defend that. You have to say that he hurt his MVP case. I don't want to talk about Embiid or Dame or James Harden, whoever you want to throw into the mix. I just know he hurt his case because we all agreed he has a chance to pull away without AD, and he did not. He went south.
Well, Skip,
okay,
he didn't
pull away.
pull away. As we said, look, the fact that Schroeder is not Kyrie and Patrick Beverly combined, as you said, that helps LeBron. It's not like he got back some all-NBA teammate to help him win these last 2 games. Schroeder's a solid player. He's really good. He's their 3rd best player. That's it. And I tell you, at this stage, Skip, he is a better defender than Patrick Beverly right now. Beverly's
disagree.
not what he used to be. Beverly's rolling off reputation defensively. He's a lot of bark, not as much bite anymore. Schroeder's picking dudes up 3/4 court. He's a better defender at this point. But here's the thing, Skip, and I get you. You pointed out LeBron's struggles. Somebody's got to win the award. That's why it's fair to talk about Embiid, talk about Harden. All the other guys, Luka, Jokic, Steph, Dame, they're not winning enough. Even Giannis, they're not winning enough games. The Lakers have more wins than the Sixers. Sixers are number 1 in the East, but the Lakers have a better record. So somebody's going to win it. And it's an odd year where nobody's pulling away, and that's why LeBron's still right there near the top.
Chris, when you shoot, you plummeted to 69.4% from the free throw line. You're disqualified. Joel Embiid is 7 feet tall, and he's a far, far better free throw shooter than LeBron James is. You're disqualified. That's pathetic.
Wow. Hey, Chris, I want to ask you this, Chris. When you go to mark your MVP ballot, you look at that free throw percentage. A guy won 60 games, the other guy won 52 games. He's like, man, but that guy that won 60 games, man, that joker shot 55%. So I can't. Well, Shaq would have never won it. Wilt Chamberlain would have never won the award.
Right.
If you're talking free throw shit.
Giannis,
but you know what, Skip, what I find ironic? Exactly. Chris, this is what I find ironic. You remember last year when the Lakers beat the Rockets? And Skip kept talking about Daniel House. If they'd have had Daniel House, they would have beat him. Patrick Beverly is the 3rd best guy. Now he gonna talk about Schroeder. Man, Schroeder's a bum. Schroeder's like the 17th guy on the bench. Don't do that, Skip. Schroeder is very good at what he does because, as Chris said, he can pick you up 94 3/4 court. He can initiate his own offense. He can create for other people. And they didn't have that. If you had told me, now AD, look, what did they record when they got Schroeder and LeBron minus AD?
Shannon.
That was without AD and Schroeder.
Shannon, who's the best player on the planet as we speak right now? Who's the best?
The guy that's always been the best for the last decade.
Thank you.
Go,
so
James.
who cares about AD or Dennis Schroeder if you have the best player on the planet? Live up.
I'm glad you said that because your best player on the planet had to go join up with 3 other bad dudes. Because why didn't Kevin Durant stay in OKC if he's the best player on the planet? Shouldn't he be able to win Chris Broussard regardless of what Russ does?
No.
If you the best player on the planet?
No.
Oh, now all of a sudden you can't overcome that.
And unfortunately, unfortunately, we haven't seen a lot of Skip's best player on the planet this season. So it's hard. It's hard to
when we
explain
gonna see
right
it,
now.
Skip?
I don't know.
Soon enough.
We're dealing with some stuff.
You know,
He's
Jen.
dealing with some stuff.
You know
We
he's
don't have
right
enough
there.
time.
LeBron's right
We don't
there.
have enough time.
No mercy.
Many around the league continue to wonder why Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy still hasn't landed a head coaching job. Steelers coach Mike Tomlin is the latest to weigh in, saying in a recent interview that it was a, quote, head scratcher. Tomlin continued to talk about the hiring process for black head coaches around the league, saying, quote, I don't have an answer for you as to how to make it better. The optimist in me says things will get better, but there's been no evidence in the recent cycles to back that up. Without evidence, all we have is hope. So, Shannon, I'm going to start with you. What is your reaction to Tomlin saying this?
Well, he makes some very compelling points. Also, in that interview, he said that Andy Reid has been every Andy Reid offensive coordinator over the last 2 decades has basically gotten a head coaching job with Andy calling the plays. Only now with Eric Bieniemy in position to get a head coaching job is that used against Eric Bieniemy. Matt Nagy got a head coaching job and he did not call the plays. Doug Peterson got a head coaching job and he did not call the plays. But nobody held that against him, but it's seemingly being held against Eric Bieniemy. So I agree with Mike Tomlin. But the problem that I have with Mike Tomlin saying this, Mike Tomlin has been a head coach for 14 years. Mike Tomlin has not hired a black offensive or a black defensive coordinator. Now, this is what he said. He says, I always do what's in the best for our organization. I believe in hiring from within in most cases. I'm highly sensitive to it, but I don't regret having a black coordinator. Skip, what the hell do you think those other teams are saying? They're hiring the best person for the job. You're doing exactly what you say they should not do. I'm not letting you off the hook with this, Mike Tomlin. You're in a position to hire black people. You have not done that. So I'm not going to let you throw stones at everybody else. You make some very compelling point, but you're the wrong messenger to be delivering this message. Until you hire people of color, I don't care nothing about I hire from within, because I've seen you going outside and hire. If I'm not mistaken, Todd Haley was not within that organization. You hired outside of that. So don't give me that you always hire within. You could have, because you're in a position to do so, but you have not. And you use the very argument that they use against us. I hired the best person for the job. I hired from within the organization. So miss me with that.
So the most compelling point of all was just made by you, Shannon Sharp, about Mike Tomlin. I can't defend this either.
I call it like I see it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. And the greatest irony of all is the man whose name is on the Rooney Rule, a founding father of the Pittsburgh Steelers, the rule that requires NFL teams to interview minority candidates, at least 2 of them per job opening.
Right.
It's Rooney. It's the Steelers, and yet they've never had a black coordinator on offense or defense. Man. And so Mike Tomlin's conclusion was, I don't know how to fix it. Well, you could start at home. You could start right under your own nose.
Yes. Hey, Skip, my house is leaking, but I don't know how about repair that? How about to repair the leak to your house, but you want to be a carpenter and go fix everybody else's house, but you don't want to fix your own damn house.
Okay.
Repair your house first, because I see your house is not in order.
So he made the point that we've lost some good black coaches along the way. Ray Horton, he mentioned Scotty Montgomery, went back to college. Kirby Wilson, who was involved in that terrible house fire. But the point is that they just had a chance, to go outside, and he brought in to interview Hugh Jackson and Pep Hamilton for their offensive coordinator, and then elevated Matt Canada, who is not black. So I love Mike Tomlin. I always tell you, if I could play for one coach, I'd want to play for Mike Tomlin. And to your point, he made a lot of great points, except they seem a little hypocritical and empty in the end, because he's not putting his money where his mouth is. So when it comes to Eric Bieniemy, Shannon, the sad truth about what's just happened is that what's Eric up to now? I think it's 14 interviews for 13 jobs. Well, you know how the
Right.
sheepthink works in this league. And I think a lot of owners are
Right.
sitting back saying, wait a minute. He's had 14 interviews and he never landed a head coach job. There's got to be something wrong with him. And I think it transcends whether he calls plays or doesn't call plays. I just think he got interviewed right out of getting a head coaching job because too many times he was brought in probably just to be the token Rooney Rule interview. So I feel for him.
Let me look at it from another perspective. I was also thinking about this. Maybe Mike Tomlin's in a situation where he looks at it like, I'm a black head coach, but I can't have too many of us because then what are they going to think? Because we get that a lot of time. I've been in situations, Skip, where you've been black, and the thing that you don't want to do, they're blackening it up. And so maybe Mike Tomlin is afraid, like, well, okay, I'm here, that we're good and that's good enough. But it's not good enough, Mike, because guess what? The majority of the white coaches, they feel their staff. Bruce Arians is the exception. Bruce Arians is not the norm. To have a black OC, a black DC, a black special teams coordinator, 2 women, full staff, he's the anomaly. He's not the norm.
No.
Mike Tomlin is the norm, where you hire where he's black, but he hire all whites.
Yep.
And mostly whites hire normally all whites. Bruh, you keep talking about, I don't know what's going on, but tell me what's going on in your thinking. You keep hiring from within. How's that worked out for you? Since you hired from within, how'd that work it out for you?
Yet, Shannon, what do we say?
You have one great Bruce Arians.
Yeah. What's the league now? What is it? Is it 75% black?
70%
70%
yeah,
black.
Yeah, about in the 70. Yeah.
Okay, well, is it just me? How can you blacken it up too much? I mean, shouldn't you have about at least 50% black head coaches? You can't blacken it up too much if you have 75% or 70% players.
No, Skip. He's talking about on his staff. I mean, because he's talking about his situation.
Okay.
No, I'm not talking about around the league. I'm just talking about his staff. Bruce Arians, like I said, Skip, Bruce Arians should get an award. Bruce Arians, so Tampa should get the picks that the NFL says, well, if you hire a black GM and OC, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers should get an extra 5 picks in the top 4 rounds doing what they've done because nobody else has done that. And that seems to me, you know what, Skip? And they won the Super Bowl. So now what's the excuse? A black guy called the plays, Byron Leftwich. Now he gonna need to get a job next year. Now, I'm gonna need to know why.
Yep.
The
Agreed.
DC, Todd Bowles.
Yeah.
He gonna need to get a head coaching job next year, or I'm gonna need to know why not.
A second
Keith
one.
Armstrong need to be in line for an offense or defense. Because thank you, Skip. Bruce Arians got a second chance, and he's older than Marvin Lewis.
No.
They talk about Marvin Lewis's age. Bruce Arians got a second chance of a head job, and he's older than Marvin.
Great point.
So don't give me that, Mike Tomlin. You perpetuating the stereotype. You feeding that beast. The argument that they use against us, you fed right into it.
No mercy.
Zlatan Ibrahimovic was critical of LeBron in a recent interview, saying that LeBron should stick to sports and not get into politics since it's not his profession. LeBron didn't back down in his response, saying, quote, "At the end of the day, I would never shut up about things that are wrong." LeBron continued, saying, "There's no way I would ever just stick to sports because I understand this platform and how powerful my voice is." Shannon, do you like LeBron's response here?
I loved it. I loved everything about how LeBron handled this situation. Skip, I don't really know that much about Ibrahimovic. Understand that he plays soccer. I know that he was raised in Sweden to, I think, Bosnian and Croatian parents. And when you in Sweden and you don't have blonde hair and blue eyes and with a last name Ibrahimovic, I'm thinking you probably got looked at a little side-eye. Skip, I find this very ironic that he said this because he said one of his favorite athletes was Muhammad Ali because he loved his brashness and he loved the way he responded to his critics. I think you need to understand a little bit and read a little bit more about Muhammad Ali because he was so much more than that. Now, Skip, I can't totally blast the guy because he's really not maybe American. He doesn't understand how it works in America. So he probably really never heard of Billie Jean King and he's never heard of Arthur Ashe. He knows who Muhammad Ali is, but not the totality of Muhammad Ali's work. You see, Billie Jean King, Skip, if the women made the same purses as the men, if they got treated just like the men, Billie Jean probably would have had nothing to speak out against. But what we've done, Skip, over the last quarter century, for what we've done, is that if you speak out against wrong, you're becoming political. Like somehow right and wrong now is political. You see someone not getting justice, someone not getting equality, and you're political. Well, let me tell you what I'm about. I don't know what party I'm a part of, Skip. I'm for right and wrong. I'm for justice. I'm for equality. I'm for treating people the right way. So if that's conservatism, if that's liberalism, I don't know what party that is. That's the party I'm a part of. And maybe I'm a party of one. But what I seem to think now, Skip, is universal. It's, especially if you're black. If you're black and you make a lot of money, shut your mouth and dribble. Shut your mouth and catch or hit the baseball. Why should you be concerned about things like that? You make tons and tons of money because even though he's not American, he speaks as though a lot of white Americans, what they say, Skip, shut up and dribble, shut up and hit, shut up and catch. So he's entitled to his opinion, just like he wanted, maybe he was asked about LeBron, but I love the way LeBron responded. LeBron says, I'm well versed on what I say and what I do, and I'm never going to shut up and dribble.
Shannon, usually, almost always, I would have loved LeBron's response, except in this case, I wish he had just shrugged, rolled his eyes, and said, consider the source. Period, end of story. Let it go.
Okay, you want to...
This is beneath his dignity. This is Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who he is the ultimate showman. He's a part entertainer. He says outrageous things right, left, up, and down to try to top his own outrageousness, to get a rise out of the public, to enhance his mystique as the world's biggest soccer villain. He has been accused of being a dirty player by rivals and his own teammates during their practices. And in the end, he has zero credibility when it comes to this because he's just calculated enough that he knew if he poked the biggest bear, LeBron James, on this subject, he would get a response. And he got it right back between the eyes. And somewhere he was laughing because he just wanted the attention. He doesn't deserve the attention because LeBron is the one man in all of sports who does not need to defend himself when it comes to using his platform to further racial and social change and justice, because nobody has ever been greater than LeBron at using his platform.
Right.
So it's like he doesn't need to defend himself because he is he. He's LeBron. And especially this guy, and this guy knew enough, Shannon, because remember, Zlatan did play for the LA Galaxy during part of LeBron's first go-around with the Lakers in LA.
Yeah, in LA.
So he gets it enough to know exactly what LeBron is and knows that if he pokes here, pushes there, probes here or there, he could get a response out of LeBron, and he got one. And I love what LeBron said in a vacuum because he's exactly right. I just hated that he wasted his breath on this guy.
Yeah. LeBron, some things, like when it comes to situations like this, Skip, LeBron probably is never going to let it go because basically, essentially, what he's saying in his terminology is shut up and dribble. And LeBron is never going to shut up and dribble.
And
what we're seeing today, Skip, today's athletes. Today's athletes are not going to shut up and just stick to sports. That's not happening.
And it started with LeBron.
Yeah. It feels like we are so past that, right? Like now, no, that's not going to change. And Skip, you're right. Zlatan wanted a response. He got one. I love that LeBron always is never afraid to share what he believes.
No mercy.
Giannis led the Bucks down the stretch to pull out a come-from-behind win over the Clippers last night. The Greek Freak outscored the Clippers by himself, 17-10 in the final 8.5 minutes, to seal the 105-100 win. And after the game, Paul George, he wasn't happy with LA getting just 7 free throw attempts, saying it was a, quote, lead question when asked about the disparity. So, Shannon, what's the biggest reason the Clippers lost?
Paul George keep bumping his gums? Because remember they lost to the Nets the other night. Oh, the Nets got the referees in their back pocket. Paul George does a lot of chirping when they're winning. When he's scoring 30 points, he's dropping basket, he talking about everybody chirping, and that set him off last year. I hear him say nothing yesterday. Let me ask you a question, Skip. Are Kawhi and Paul George, are they Masons? Because they can lay bricks. Did you see what they did last night in the fourth quarter? Especially the final 4 minutes of the ball game. They took every shot and bricked every last one of them. Let me look at my notes right here. Kawhi Leonard misses 4 shots in the final 2:15. He missed 3 shots in the final minute. He missed 3 in the final 10 seconds. And don't let me forget about old playoff Paul. Playoff Paul. Really? This sounds like the same team that we saw last year, Skip, meltdown in the playoffs. You remember that Game 7 in the fourth quarter? Kawhi and Paul George went 0 for 11 in the Game 7 against Denver? Yep, same thing. Paul George last night, 0 for 5 in the fourth quarter. Kawhi Leonard, 0 for 4 in the fourth quarter. What happened to the most mentally tough team? Kawhi the Terminator, Pat Bev. They keep blowing it. Skip, what's going on, Skip? Somebody need to tell me something. Y'all keep bumping y'all gums. You can't talk your way into a title. That's what I love about pro sports. You can't talk about it. At some point in time, you got to be about it. Bunch of brick masons.
So, you know my opinion of this. The Clippers are still better than the Lakers, but neither team has a legitimate, trustable closer. Neither team has one. And yet, even though Giannis scored 17 points in the fourth quarter, if you ask me the biggest reason that the Clippers lost, Giannis's last 2 points should not have counted. If we could see this real quickly, they swung the ball, they shared the ball, it came all the way back around to Giannis at the three-point line. He takes off running with the ball. That's traveling. I know they don't call it, but this is so blatant. He runs 3 steps with the ball. How can you get away with that? And Paul George, to his credit, is underneath doing this like it's walking. He just ran with the ball. You have to dribble it one time from the three-point line, and he did not, and he got away with it because it's in Milwaukee, and they don't call traveling in the NBA, especially in the last minute of the game. Okay. I immediately tweeted at the end of this game.
Tell Paul George to put on a different uniform.
What's that? Say it again.
Tell Paul George to put on a different uniform. He want to referee ball games. He shouldn't be. But so why he missed those shots? Was that the referee fault also?
No. Well, he was 1 for 9 in the fourth quarter and 0 for 5 from 3. But he has been on a torrid pace because he's a career-high 46% three-point shooter. And by the way, speaking of LeBron James, Paul George is almost 89% at the free throw line. So he's way beyond LeBron from 3 and from the free throw line. The problem is, I tweeted immediately at the end of the game that they are a huge letdown, disappointment at the end of the game because they still don't have a plan. They still don't run a play to get somebody an open look instead of some tentative, half-hearted, forced look. And it was Kawhi once, Paul George next time, Kawhi at the end. They were all bad looks without creating a shot. It's up to Kawhi if he's going to be the point forward. You got to attack the lane. You got to get in the lane. You got to draw the defense, kick it to Marcus Morris, who'd been hot from 3, kick it to Lou Williams, who I always said should be the closer, and he's starting to look more and more like Lou Williams. I don't need him to dribble, and then force up 2 3-point shots.
I blame Doc Rivers because Doc Rivers is not drawing up plays to put the guys he need. They need smarter plays. They need better plays. Remember? They got Doc Rivers up out of there, Kawhi and Paul George. I blame Trez Harrell also because Trez Harrell was a cancer in the locker room. It was him. So now the exact same thing, minus Doc, minus Trez Harrell, the exact same thing that befuddled you last year is happening again. Now, there are 2 common denominators. Your two star players are still there, and they're still doing the exact same thing. So tell me again, whose fault last year was? Whose fault is it this year? Because you got a new head coach, and you got guys out of the locker room that you said were cancers.
Yeah, games 5, 6, and 7 against Denver last year, they couldn't even come close in those 3 games. This one, they dominated much of this game and then couldn't close the deal.
Skip, we don't do that. unless you slow dancing or unless you throwing grenades or playing horseshoes, closeness doesn't matter. In sports, we got a very simple rule. You win or you lose. Now, which did they do, Skip?
Ask LeBron what he's been doing.
Okay, unless you're slow dancing. That was good.
No mercy.
Well, 3 of the 4 spots in the NBA All-Star Dunk Contest have been filled according to reports. It will be Knicks rookie Obi Toppin, Blazers guard Anfernee Simons, and Pacers guard Cassius Stanley, all facing off at halftime during the All-Star game itself. So, Shannon, what was your reaction when you saw the field at the dunk contest?
Boo. Skip, then he got Anthony Edwards from Minnesota. Then he got Zion.
Yeah.
Skip, you got your boy in there. But Obi Toppin, hell, I thought they was talking about Obi Trice, the rapper. And then Skip, Anfernee, I'm assuming he was named after Penny Hardaway, Anfernee Hardaway, and Cassius Stanley. Skip, these are no names.
Nobody.
Skip, you remember the dunk contest used to be about names. They had names, guys that were very good players that could also dunk. These guys can just, Skip, I don't know these guys. People don't know these guys.
This hurts my heart, Shannon, because gone are the days that Michael Jeffrey Jordan did 3 dunk contests. I guess it started when
Dominique,
LeBron finally said,
Dr. J.
I'm not going to do one. Once LeBron said he won't do it, nobody wanted to do it.
No mercy.